Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to pre-order upcoming Force of Will sets, ccgprime.com for singles and supplies, cardodoko.com for those rulers in the international market looking for product, as well as our guest lecturer members Vite Ramen and Full Grammar Alchemist. Class is in session.
Hey there guys, welcome back to another tournament report with yours truly, Paul Raceman. Today we're going over a couple of the GPs that happened during the month of July over across the pond in Europe. We're going to start with GP Milan, which was won by Ruchil, which is why you're seeing the Ruchil image here. Just spoilers alert there, but we did have about 35 participants in the Milan GP here. We also had Lars Grams winning overall with Ruchil. So congratulations to him. As we get into the ruler breakdown, we're starting to see 21 different ruler combinations that are being played here. 5 Mars and Mercurius. This ruler combination is continuing to show that it is not just some gimmicky thing. Definitely did not anticipate this particular ruler combination doing as well as it is. But hey, the 7 Luminaries are doing very, very, very well in here. We also have 4 Prisia that showed up, 3 Ruchil, one of which won the entire event, and then we're getting into some tag combinations with things like Alice and Fault Gold, Astema Belial, a lot of tag from back in the Saga Cluster days, as well as some Order Kaguya showing up as well. Moonglow is showing up. Not a lot of Hachisuka in this particular GP. People are choosing to play Moonglow instead, which I think is a really interesting thing. We're also starting to see, again, Gil Lapis show up here. A lot of stuff here that is very similar. Also a lot of stuff that is not very similar. We did have one Giotto show up, which I think is really, really interesting, as well as a Lucy. So let's get into the top 8 deck list. Of course, Lars ended up winning the entire event on Ruchil. He's playing a lot of tokens here. He's not playing Shatalkins. He's instead opting to replace Shatalkin with Percival, Blue Percival, as a way of searching out things like your fishing, not your fishing spot, excuse me, that is an addition, but things like your mirror, your uppercuts, Zacky's new plan, your eggs that you can put on the bottom of the deck and expel with Ruchil's effect to get some monster tokens. I mean, there's a lot of really good things going on in this particular build, and this is kind of why Ruchil was seen as a little bit of a threat when she first came out with the third set of Trinity Cluster. The stone base is really straightforward, very clean stone base, so there's not a lot of thought you need to put into that, but we are playing a little bit of a witch package as well. We can just play witch, go into Pumpkin Witch, give all of our tokens swiftness and flying, and swing in for game, which is very, very possible. We are also siding Giotto, so secret second Giotto being represented here, just to be able to get rid of all of the stuff that your opponent is trying to get rid of. All of your stuff in the main board that is getting expelled gets expelled. I mean, it doesn't go to the RFG, which I think is really, really interesting. And so this really just floodgates your opponent while you get to do all of your other stuff for basically for free. Giotto is still a really powerful floodgate for a lot of decks to have to overcome. So in the main board, I mean, we're just seeing this very clean list that is trying to ramp stones, that is trying to expel things from the bottom of the deck to get free advantage, and a whole host of other things that, you just get access to with our Blue Percival as well. So congratulations to Lars. I mean, I would say there's a lot more to go off of here, but honestly, it's just a free advantage engine that is, floodgating your opponent and doing some really interesting things, continuing to prove that water best color. Going into David Prada's second place list, we are looking at the basic stuff here for your 7 luminaries. We are seeing the one of Rachel's Smile, which we definitely saw at FowFest as that GP kicked off. Rachel's Smile as a favorite way of just saying we're going to rest your board and move on. But what's interesting about this deck going into the top cut was that it would have had to compete with Ruchiel in that you have to pay an additional will to attack. So all of that damage dealing from Uranus is somewhat mitigated and pushed back an entire turn, which might as well be an eternity for different things in Force of Will. That being said, this is very, very, very similar to what we see from the Lindley list from FowFest. We are seeing the Metal Helix to be able to remove things like your Ghosts of the Witches of the Tower in order to facilitate some negation later on in the game, just free negation. This combination is really, really powerful, as well as last movement to just kind of make that a little bit easier to facilitate if these end up in your hand. And there's just a lot of really good stuff in here that is really providing a strong aggro package. Not much more to say outside of that, other than in the sideboard we are seeing ways to get rid of things if folks end up showing up with standby area strategies. And for the most part, that is what the deck is trying to do. Wipe out your board, or whip out an Invitation to Disaster to just burn you for 2k under Raging Messiah for 4k. And just swing with Uranus and develop an entire situation where you were either swinging for big damage or burning for big damage. Would have had a little bit of an issue going into Ruchiel, and so it's good to see that Ruchiel was able to find a niche in this metagame, but this was in fact one of the major decks to beat. Again, we're seeing 5 of those different decks showing up, so it definitely was the favored, along with Prisia. Aggro was definitely the favored deck going into this event. So Ruchiel showing it up, but still very powerful. Made it into the top 2, so don't sleep on this particular strategy whatsoever. Congratulations to David for getting into the top 2. Top 4 is going to be starting with Jonathan Bailey. We're seeing 6 Sages. Again, very tried and true, time-honored strategy that a lot of folks in the United States are just not playing for some reason. I still think 6 Sages are really, really powerful. Maybe people are just bored of this strategy, but Jonathan Bailey took it all the way to a top 4 finish, getting 3rd place. We're seeing Ambush Scorpion, which was unbanned with Gruz Ballesta, so that's really, really, really helpful. And we also have Yigdor, which is able to buy back some of the stones we toss off of Gruz Ballesta and, eventually Institute, which is really what you were going to be using to swing for game. We're playing 1 to 8 different magic stones here, and so that's going to give your Institutes a lot of staying power and a lot of threat to your opponent's board. Imagine throwing your Mirage Spirit in for, I don't know, 1600. It seems like a crazy amount of additional damage to swing off of this one little guy. Your Lorites, your Dark Alices get bigger, your Persephones are larger. I mean, there's just a lot of really, really good stuff going on here. Ambush Scorpion, of course, with Gruz Ballesta is just Stone Ramp. The stone that comes in from Ambushing Scorpion, if you were able to just toss it off of Gruz Ballesta's effect, you effectively just ramp a stone, fueling your Yigdor. If that happens to be a Reincarnation Stone, it's just a free draw. So there's a lot of really good synergy just with that core right there. Going into the sideboard, we have Lumia's Rage in case someone is going to be floodgating you with Geodo. Some basic negation, some additional burn because we are playing Mujdart, so that's really, really helpful. We do get Mujdart back, so having this back as a tool is really, really helpful. Even with the errata, this card is still incredibly, incredibly good. And then just some basic other utility things like Light Lightnings and Shards to remove things from the graveyard. And then you have your basic Rogue Shiva as well. So congratulations for Jonathan getting into the top 4, excuse me. And now we're going to be moving on to Chromo Munoz with 0. Again, very diverse very diverse metagame in this top cut here. Of course, 0, incredibly good. Having 1 apple in the main and 1 in the side is really helpful. Fates Reunited in the main board as well, just to facilitate some help getting rid of things that are going to be troublesome to you. Ice Shards for additional floodgating, really, really helpful alongside Shamans. And then you just have the new Sphinx. It does not hurt you at all to run this card. This card is really, really, really helpful. What's interesting is the Grandmaster in here, just to like give things Eternal, is really, really funny. Just as an additional tech. I love being able to just give 0 Eternal or give 4 Eternal. That's really, really fun. There's a lot of really cool things going on here, and of course you have Courtesans, really good new piece of removal for white, and this deck just gets to make a lot of use of that. Playing tanks to make additional bodies, no hues, which I think is really interesting. We're opting not to run hue at all. We're just going to be playing tanks, and instead we're going to be playing Hall of the Bandit King, which I suppose for your opponent is just a discard spell if you have Sphinx Engrave, which I think is really interesting. In the sideboard, we have Dark Alice's Smile. We have a couple of attack orders, Lumias, ways to get rid of Regalia in Oxidizer, a couple of the new Oath, which I think we're going to be talking about this here in a little bit, but I want to look up this new Oath for you here. Let me just type it in this way. We'll find it. For the Memory of the Queen, put up to 1 additional Regalia or Resonator card with total cost X or less from your graveyard into the field, and then you gain X life, and each other player loses X life, where X is the number of times you played this card this game plus 1. So this is a really interesting way of just whittling down your opponent. I think this is really good for 0 in the sense that it's just a way to recur my stuff while getting rid of your life, which is really great. Because it brings back Regalia, you can play it with the tank. Really, really, really helpful overall. So it's really interesting to see this in the sideboard as a way to just sort of win the control matchup, or even just the 0 matchup if you need a way to do that. We're also playing Starscale in the sideboard as a way of saying like, hey, you don't really get anything if you don't have stones and you're not respecting stones. Again, in all my deck building, I just have this card in the back of my mind. I don't ever play Magic Stones that don't have a type at this point in Wanderer. This card just scares the living daylights out of me. Playing the Awakened Magic Stone is also really good. It makes your 0 flips free, essentially, and it gives you a little bit of access to red for things like Oxidizer and Bandit Hall, but it's just another white stone that's just, you know, I just think that's smart to be able to say, like, hey, it's a free judgment. I'm wondering if this stone needs some sort of consideration for the ban list, because I think this stone has been, at least in this era of the game, it's been proving to be a lot more splashable than I think intended, especially with 0. I know we saw it with books early on in the season after Masterpiece Collection 2 was released, and so I'm curious to know if this stone needs to be considered a little bit more than it has before. Last but not least, getting into the top 8, we saw Lucy finally cracking into the top 8, and it's hard not to see why. So Rubedo is here as one of the new win conditions. That is the wrong one. Excuse me, hold on. I'm going to look at Rubedo with you all because I think you're going to kind of see why this card is the way it is. Once you flip and start swinging in with all of your elementals, and all of your elemental resonators, when this card is destroyed, will deal 500 damage to target player or J resonator until end of the turn. That's really, really, really powerful. If you ended up doing your kind of pseudo linkage with this, those elemental resonators will gain +5/+5 and explode, which will then deal 500 to target player or J resonator. So this card is a win con in and of itself. It's really worth considering, and as a result, we're seeing Florian go into more of a red package. This Fountain, I want to look this up with you all because I think this is a really, really interesting card in this particular list. because it just says spirits you control gain swiftness, which includes literally all of these guys outside of Persephone. All of these will gain swiftness. So if you flip Lucy and you get this online, these guys just have swiftness, which I think is really, really, really interesting. We're also mainboarding Hellfire and Rubedo for the full fire package. We're adding in a second, like 1 to 2 of the Fire Spirit is really, really important. I call him Synthetic Cinnamon, of course, because they're all Skittles flavors, except for Starburst. Starburst is just Starburst. But we do have the new Homunculus. The Homunculus is incredibly powerful for this particular deck, because even though you're not running the Great Works package in this, essentially what this allows you to do is, if you ever get this out under Lucy, which is not very hard to do, you can flip Lucy after all is said and done, and then put this either from your item area or your graveyard into the field, and then just load up your item area again. Really, really good for that. It could also search out your Rubedo by just tapping. Really, really powerful stuff. This thing can get really big and just really, really enable the entire game plan. Having 4 of this, I've always kind of had a little bit of an apprehension toward that, but you can just discard it off of test tubes because it is, in fact, an elemental spirit. So you can just dump it and look for other spirits as you need them. It's a very straightforward, just a very, very, very straightforward package here. We are playing a couple of Loki's, Insight, and Persephone's just for getting rid of certain things your opponent has. We're seeing no Zacky's new plan, which I think is really interesting too, and I think that was more of just a calculation. But being able to look in your opponent's hand and just discard 2 cards with Quick Cast, including things like Luminaries, etc. This is a good thing to cast on the end of your opponent's turn, because you just have so much will at all times in this particular list. In the sideboard, we are seeing things like Killua, Girl in the City, to be able to negate additional things and get rid of additions, an additional Hellfire to get rid of things like Shatalkin, anything that has Eternal or Barrier. I think Hellfire is a very underrated card in pretty much every format that it's a part of. We have good generic support in the sideboard, including Girls Staring At, Light Lightning, Shards, and Courtesans, and then we have an additional Mirage Spirit. I think 2 is probably the right number to play in the deck at present, so it's good to see that the 3rd one is in the sideboard. It's really easy to find if you're dumping with test tubes every single turn. And then, of course, your basic Rogue Shiva. So thank you to Florian for actually getting Lucy into the top cut. I think this deck is criminally underrated, and this deck is really, really good if you give it the time of day. Definitely check it out. It's definitely able to crack into the top 8 of a GP. Hector Sanchez is playing Your Fallen Angels, which is, I think, really good ahead of a really good ahead of Devil Cluster, the Evil Cluster, excuse me. We are seeing some very basic Lapis colors here, with things like Phoenix for burn. We have Virgil for aggression and burn. Even though he's a little bit more easy to answer, you can just tutor him with Dante, which makes him still a really compelling card. We are seeing Dragon of Mount, what is it? Oh my gosh, I can't remember what this card is called, but this is one of gosh, I'm so sorry guys. This is one of the dragons that was released alongside Fault Gold's new support in Masterpiece 1. I'm gonna try one more time to see if I can find this kid in all of these things. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do that quickly, so I'm going to kind of just skip over it. I'm not entirely sure what this card is. I completely forgot. But you do have Necronomicon Barrier, which is interesting because this card is seeing a lot more play because of Untouchable. Things like Lorite that can't target abilities that are entering on the off of the chase. Things with just Untouchable in general are bringing this card back into the metagame, which I think is really interesting. Hellfire is still in the metagame. Suya, still a really powerful card alongside Attack Order for just generic removal. Gradius is seeing finding play again, because just blinking something and getting rid of Eternal and killing it is really relevant. And then we're just seeing a lot of really good ways to just pop your opponent's stuff. We are seeing one Satan's Phantasmal Body, so if you're ever searching with Dante, you can just search this card and kill your own Astema, which I think is really funny. If it's taken some damage, you can just kill your own Astema with that or with Gradius, and that's really, really funny. Because then you can swap out for Satan in the sideboard. And then we're just seeing a lot of really good generic stuff. We are seeing Jack-o'-lantern in here, which I think is... I can look that up very, very easily. I think Jack-o'-lantern is actually also very underrated. It's interesting to me that if you perform the consensus, which again cannot be stopped unless you have like a Mina Harker or something like this, so it prevents it from coming into the field, you can deal 100 damage up to X J Resonators, where X is the number of players that chose Trick times 2. So you can deal Bane damage to kill 2 things, which I think is, definitely worth 2 mana. And then you drain a little bit of life, which I think is also totally fine. But really just getting around and doing the Bane damage, I think is really, really funny. You can banish this card, and at the next end of turn, put this card from a graveyard into the field under its owner's control in all zones, and then you cannot gain life until the end of the turn. This is just a good way of recycling, right? You can red or black to do this, which I think is really, really nice. So I think this card actually has a niche in the metagame. It's a cute little guy. That's all I gotta say. It's also by the way, it's a Daimyo. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it actually has some relevance in the Ifrit deck, which I think is cool. Other than that, there's nothing too crazy to speak of here. Lucifers are really good drain engines, and then if you look at the stone base, it kind of makes sense for what the deck is trying to do. In the sideboard, this is a card that I don't think I've ever seen anyone play, and so I don't think I'm ever going to have the ability to look up what to do with this, but we're seeing a lot of like anti-red here. I think this is just for, in particular, getting rid of Uranus as a trigger response. I think it's just, I'm just scared of Uranus, so I want to kill it. Interesting that they're running this card and not something else, but maybe that just made sense for this particular version. We're seeing Essence of Odin's Power in the sideboard, which I think is really interesting. Judgment of Solari, and ways to get rid of Regalia alongside that, as well as a couple of additional shamans. So really cool to see that we were able to find a way to have Fallen Angels get back into the top cut of a GP in this day and age. Congratulations to Hector Sanchez for getting into top 8. Next, we have Philip Kybiors getting into the top 8 with Order Alice. Still a very strong strategy because we have a lot more regalia to speak of. We have Treasure Tree coming in to produce a lot of different kinds of will for things like Alice's World is in the deck. Sorry, I got distracted there. But Treasure Tree is really good for being able to just put out a whole bunch of stuff right away. It's interesting that he's running this in general. I haven't seen this card since we saw it in Order Odin. We also have Linosfaria to just prevent your opponent from having stuff on the field with effects during your turn, which I think is really great. Phantasmal Essence of Fantasia, or whatever this card is called. I think it's just Fantasia, right? Or maybe I'm spelling it wrong. Tales of Fantasia, just to flood the field with a bunch of different stuff. This card is the other win condition now that we don't have Ayu in the deck, but this card is still incredibly good. It's good to see that this actually proved itself in the GP by cracking into the top 8. And then we have the Time Walk spell, which I'm not sure what the name of that is, but I do know it's a Zacky card. Let's see if we can find this. This card is really good for just skipping turns, which I think is really funny. If you, let's see, when this card is revealed in your deck against the following abilities in all zones, you pay 2 less to play this card. This is probably what the Treasure Tree is being used for, because I noticed that 3 in the free cost is basically just a 6th copy. Copies 5 and 6 of Alice's World, which I think is really great. So we're just trying to cheat out Alice's World and this card relatively easy, I think, is what the deck is trying to do. Just take additional turns, swing with the Fairy of Mott, swing with the Fairy of Mott, and then swing with the Fairy of Mott for game. It seems pretty good to me. I think this deck is really, really, really funny. I love what it's doing. We get to see Alice's World come back into the meta game. Card is really, really fun still. Sideboard is going to be Flash Freeze and just some other basic. Zacky's new plan to just say, absolutely not, you don't get to do anything. Yeah, if you are trying to do something, that is absolutely not going to happen. Sorry, kids. Loki's Insight to get rid of quick cast spells. We might be seeing more of Loki's Insight going into the future. And then just some more additional defense with Lumia. Gain life, get rid of stuff. Really, really, really helpful. So it's really cool to see that we have Alice's World plus Linosfaria doing some really funny things with Treasure Tree. Thanks, Philikabiers, for this amazing deck. We're moving on then to Ivan Penev, who is playing Grimtag with Abdul and Sherry. There's some really interesting things going on with this particular deck. Jeremy has been playing this deck a lot because we're seeing Replicant Dante really make a splash. This card I did not think was ever going to see play, but the thing you need to recognize is this ability right here. Whenever an effect you control causes you to lose life or you pay life for a cost, put a fallen counter on each non-magic stone entity your opponent controls. Well, if you look at all of the stones that we're playing here, at least half of them are causing you to pay life. So we have our tri-stones here that are causing us to pay life. We have the one of stone that is going to allow us to judgment Abdul on one. Pure Heart Stone, as well as the Resin Stone. All of these stones are causing us to pay life. Everything else doesn't, but that's just enough to be able to say, hey, Dante is going to be incredibly consistent. And then when your opponent is whittled down enough, you're going to be able to hit them with an Odin to get rid of their stuff. What's interesting about Solaria's Wind is that it turns Otherworld Dreams into a cancel, like a straight up cancel. Because you are playing the additional card, when you tap Solaria's Wind, it's going to be taxing you one more every time you play a spell for the turn. And so this card is basically just going to turn into a cancel, which I think is really, really interesting. This is a full generic cancel. Not only does Solaria's Wind then fuel your win condition and allow you to buy back things like your Odin or your Dante if they end up getting removed, it also is going to make it so that your opponent cannot just wombo combo, play a whole bunch of cards, generate a whole bunch of will, and just win the game. I think this deck is really, really interesting for that. Also, just flipping Abdul is insane in this format. There's just not a lot of J-Ruler hate outside of things like Attack Order, and I don't think a lot of people are anticipating such a powerful J-Ruler coming out. So this definitely has the act of surprise. Of course, we are playing Dark Alice as a way of getting additional cards and removing cards from the deck because of Shahryar, and that's incredible. What else can I say? You get Shahryar, you can side into Lumia as well and Almirius to just have a completely different access to play. This deck is just really interesting. And of course, you have Light of Lumia too, so you will be doing some burn damage to just end the game. You do have Executioner, which I think is honestly, I keep this in my pool of darkness cards for me to consider, because it does just have Terrifying First Strike and Bane. It cannot lose its abilities, so it works under GST, which is insane. And then enter, destroy target J Resonator. If a J Ruler was destroyed this way, your opponent cannot play Resonator spells until end of the turn. This thing just straight up kills Zero. And by the way, she cannot pop this card because she does not blank Terrifying or Bane. And I believe she doesn't blank First Strike either. Let me confirm that. I know Apple doesn't do that. Okay, she can blank First Strike. Keeping that in mind. But for the most part, unless if she's flipped just killing it outright and then making her pay a black to make this thing not have first strike, that's a kind of a tall cost. So I think this card is very interesting for what it can provide in the metagame. It's kind of like a Persephone, but if you're mostly into black, this thing is going to be really, really helpful for you as well. So I love seeing this in the sideboard. Other than that, again, we need to actually talk about this card, because I know it's a torrent card. Here it is. Lead Hook Diagnosis. I have no clue what people are doing with this card, so let's read it so we understand. It's got Quick Cast, Remnant, and Untouchable, and you pay an additional free cost if this card is being played from the graveyard. Prevent all damage that would be dealt by a target ability or chance spell until end of turn. Draw a card. So we're looking at a Fog. Hey, you're playing Invitation from Disaster. Cool. No. That's what this card is basically being used for, just as like an ability Fog. Or a chant Fog for luminaries, which I think is probably pretty smart. It does draw you an extra card. I keep seeing this Remnant everywhere, so Utsunes, paging Utsunes. Whatever, I'm obsessed with Utsunes. Anyway, thank you to Ivan Panev for piloting such a cool deck. There's a lot of really cool things going on with this list. I know Jeremy really, really enjoys this list as well, and that's the end of GP Milan. What an interesting event. Going into this, no Prisias converted, which I think is really interesting. Only one Mars Mercurius converted, and then Ruchiel winning the event all the way up here at Top Cut. Really interesting deck overall. Let's then go into GP Linz in Austria. This was I believe this was a Paradox event, so we're not going to be seeing a lot of other things going on in here, so it was Paradox. And this is really, really cool. On Force of Wind, you can just put in all of your tournament information, and they'll give you the standings by the end of the event. So all of this will still be on the website. It's just going to be a little bit less detailed, probably, because we're just going to link or put some very basic information up there. Regan, I do not know any of the folks here. I don't know what their names in real life are, so let us know down in the comment section. But Prisia ended up winning this event overall, so it's hard not to see why. I mean, Prisia has always been kind of a threat in general, in Wanderer, so having it in Paradox as well, relatively untouched, is pretty dang good. It doesn't, the deck doesn't get certain things like Guardian Dragon, but you do have other things that are really, really powerful. So let's look at Fiery Snake of Reincarnation. This is the main card of the deck. This is the reason to play the deck alongside Hairpin. There's a lot going on here. The fact that it can just double its attack and defense until end of game makes this card an incredible threat. It can get flying, it can get swiftness, especially if you are landfalling a lot of different stones to be able to trigger Prisia's resonance abilities to give this card all of those symbol skills. This card is absolutely wild. Get rid of this card as soon as you possibly can. This is your primary target for things like high speed uppercut or attack order. Amazing card. So definitely check this out. This card is a beast, to say the least. Of course, you are playing 2 Fiery Fox to enable that cycling of your stones alongside your Hairpin Regalia, which can become your sub-ruler. If you do end up going first, you have a completely different access to play, frankly. This card is so interesting in that if you landfall, you're dealing 300 damage to target player and or J Resonator. Target player or J Resonator. You have to pick one. Don't want to mislead you there. This is really easy to do because you do have the Fiery Fox, but you also have things like Assault Troopers, which allows you to cycle stones as well. You do have things like Sympathy of Fire and Wind to ramp you stones in general. You also have Ignia to blink a stone, which is really, really helpful. This card is actually incredibly, incredibly good in this deck. I did not think we would be seeing this card actually do anything. I thought this card was not going to see play, And then Prisia came out in Masterpiece 2 and has some really, really, really good resonance abilities. So this is really cool. We are seeing the new Thoth being played. I think this card is not being utilized nearly enough. This card is absolutely gas. At the beginning of your battle phase, you just put something into the field that is a fire resonator. So that for this deck, if my fiery snake is in the graveyard, being able to just put this card into the field with Thoth's ability, then allows me to do some shenanigans with stones. Very, very, very fun card in general. We are playing Sword of Progression, so that means playing Aggressor from the future. People have really been turned on to this card in particular because if you play Swords of Progression a lot, this card is going to get huge for 1 mana and the card with Pierce. This card is just going to have passive, powerful abilities. And again, if you even just play the Sword of Progression and it gets canceled or expelled, for some reason, this card is still going to get bigger. So just remember, canceling Sword of Progression to make sure that your stuff gets onto the field is great, but if you're trying to prevent the counter from going up, that's just never gonna happen. So don't do that. But we do also have some Tonys, which is really helpful. We have a couple therapists to just turn off your opponent's abilities. It's really interesting that this card doesn't necessarily even really hurt the deck. This deck does not rely on races. It can rely on its sub-ruler to some degree, but I'm looking, you basically just put a Fiery Fox into the field and you have a God's Art, which you're probably never going to proc, frankly, because that is a last case scenario, you procking this God's Art ability. So really at the end of the day, you just have these automatic abilities that Therapist, you can comfortably run this in the main board as well as in the sideboard in this deck, which I think gives this deck a really interesting niche of a floodgate potential. We do have a way of healing Prisia, ramping stones, and then destroying all water J resonators and all J resonators with flying. Be careful, this will pop your own stuff if you end up with flying. And then we have Memory of Worlds as part of the cancel package alongside Killua. And then last but not least, I just wanted to highlight, you might have thought I skipped over it, but playing Pyromancer just as a way of managing boards. I think this card is absolutely amazing for that. The fact that it's not being played in Gil, I'm not surprised either. I think this card actually has generic positioning, so it's interesting to see that this card is finally starting to break out of Lapis builds just because of its generic utility, which is really great. Magic Stone deck, of course, you're playing for Memoria of Reincarnation. This gives you additional cards, especially if you blink it with Ignia. It's really, really good. Plus, it's red and it's a fire and wind stone, so you're going to be proccing both of the resonance abilities of your Prisia, as well as anything else that has resonance effects that proc off of fire and wind stones coming into the field. We have Resin Stone just to make sure that, if we have to switch gears and play more of a mid-range or a control game, we do have the ability to just gain additional life. Really, really helpful. It is also a wind stone, so you do get to give something flying if you need to. The Rubies of Lycan's Blood is really helpful. It's a fire magic stone, so it's going to give stuff swiftness when it comes in under Prisia, but then it gives you all of your colors as well for the stuff that you're trying to do in the deck. And then Ebon Home, just to get rid of rid of things off the top of your opponent's deck, but also it's a fire magic stone, so it just kind of rounds things out a little bit. Again, blinking it with Ignia, really, really fun. Just getting rid of a second card. It's just kind of a cute thing you get to do. In the sideboard, we have things like Command Point. This card is actually pretty good in the sideboard because you never know when you're going to run into things like Soul Eating Curse against Lapis or Hachi. Very, very good for that. We do have Ice Shards. Getting rid of things is really, really important in this metagame. 2 Fates Reunited in the sideboard, which is pretty generic for a lot of the Lapis rulers that we have. The other 2 Therapists, and then the 3 Epiphanic Priests as ways of getting rid of really troublesome things like, really anything that gets in your way. Certainly not Therapist, but anything that is things like Ray Asnable would probably be a really big problem for this list, so having ways to get rid of that is present in the sideboard. without Light Lightning and without Hellfire in this metagame, this card is incredibly important to just have in the side. So congratulations to Regan, whoever you are. I'm not sure, but congratulations for winning the entire event. We are looking at Leica next from the Gleam Eyes. Not a big surprise here. We are basically running this because of Magic Stone of Beasts alongside Tiger of Aradia to just draw a ton of cards, and I mean a ton of cards. You have all of these different cards in your main board alongside Beast Lords of Aradia to make your pivoting into different Leica forms really easy. We are having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just 6 beasts. So we're not using the dragon as the win con as much as we're using it as an enabler for other things, so just keep that in mind. It's interesting to me that that's the case, that we're just not using the dragon for anything else. I think you need 8 different 8 different Aradia resonators in order to really get that through, but we're not doing that. Instead, we are playing things like the World Tree Phoenix to just burn. We are playing the One Fist Fighter of the Underground Fighting Arena, which is something we saw in Stephen Jesswine's build. And then all of your basic Leica stuff, just put card on field, go swing, game, is kind of the way that the deck is running. You are running the Tiger form and the Spider form. These are really good for just multiple attacks. You do have Bane, so things can just die when you deal them damage. In the sideboard, we do have ways to get rid of things like Regalia with Lunar Oxidizer. We also have Epiphanic Priests. And then we have the price to pay as a way of just getting rid of things with Mythic or things that are getting in the way with Barrier. We're just going to yeet those out of the game. Hope that's cool. Bye. Congratulations to the Gleam Eyes for getting into top 2 with Leica. I think Leica is very underrated and is just in general a very powerful ruler in Paradox. Boobats somehow getting top 4 with Reinhardt. Whew, thought I was gonna sneeze, but we're okay. Somehow getting into the top 4 with Reinhardt. And I think the reason is because this card exists. Flourished Wetlands of Magical Origin. This card is interesting because whenever you banish a Resonator as part of the activation ability, activation cost of an activated ability, so whenever you're banishing an Ethereal as a cost, this card is going to let you copy that ability and do it again. You can pay green or moon to remove a card in your hand from the game, search your deck for an Ethereal. Oh, hey, look, we can just search for whatever we need and just recover a target Magic Stone as needed. Kind of an interesting card. This might be the entire reason why Reinhardt is actually doing relatively okay. And it's also probably the reason I'm really interested in why we're not playing Asuka and Reinhardt in this list, because that's also a really good enabler. I'm curious to know if you're in this video and you're watching this. Let us know down in the comment section down below. I'm very fascinated. There's just some really interesting choices overall. We're only playing 3 contracts, which I think is probably right in this particular build. You do get a -6/-6 until end of turn on your opponent's field, and you can contract if you want to, but you're not required to. It's really interesting that this card still exists inside the metagame. Just a generic -6/-6 does a lot of work. We are playing 4 Dexia, of course. We are playing 4 Ethereal Sword. And that makes your opponent banish a Resonator. Really good way to getting around Barrier and Eternal, which is really great. Ethereal Princess, probably one of the best cards in the deck, and an additional win con as well. This card is just going to be dealing a whole bunch of damage, more than you would think, and it just gets bigger with every Ethereal in your EX area. We are playing the Vampire too to get Drain, because man, being able to ping with Ethereal Princess and then just draining is insane as long as this card is in your EX area. Whenever this leaves the field, it does drain your opponent for 6 and gain you 6 as well, which is really nice. We are playing the Witch, give stuff Bane as well, so then your Princess becomes absolutely insane. Not only is it dealing damage and draining your opponent, it can now just pick things off of the field as well. And then we are playing Reinhardt, Shooting Star of Darkness, just 1 copy, and I think this is real. Just playing Ethereal Control and being able to say, hey, we're going to just get rid of an Ethereal and then just put this into the field upon enter. I think that's just really, really good. In addition to that, if you do end up having the wetlands on the field, you're able to Power of the Ethereal King a second time effectively. Even though you can only do it once per turn, you can copy the ability. So you can sack an Ethereal, draw a card, and then with the wetlands you'd be drawing 2 cards, which I think is really interesting. It is also, it's not an Ethereal, so that's a little unfortunate. So you can't sack it to something like your Child of the Ethereal Moon, but if you do have wetlands, you can use the ability, the God's Art ability, to banish a Resonator and copy the effect and just get a ton of card advantage off of this one particular Moonchild, which I think is really interesting. Your the rest of the deck is then going to be an enabling piece. Just see additional cards with Shitalkin. Get an additional God's Art, which I think in this particular deck is really, really powerful because this card is cracked. As people know, this card is absolutely amazing. We are playing Epiphanic Priest alongside our Swords of Progression to draw additional cards and bounce things. We are playing Curse Mirror of the Snake and a couple of Zacky's new plan for defense. Magic Stone decks are going to just enable everything. We're just playing 2 of every Tri-Stone. That's going to give you access to everything you need in order to play the game. Sideboard is going to be Fates Reunited to shut down particular effects, as well as Accursed Ice Shards, 2 additional Shitalkins, High Speed Uppercut Treatment, which I'm surprised this is not in the main board in any way, but maybe the player in general is just worried about losing out to card advantage, so having this in certain matchups is more important than having it generically. We are playing 2 Friends and a Cat. This card can actually be really, really important in certain matchups, depending on what you're doing. You have to plan for it, though. I think this card is actually still really good. And then we're playing 4 Kilo of Fossil Girl in the City, just as a way of getting rid of additions, stopping automatic abilities, and drawing an additional card. This card is actually really, really good for that. It's really interesting to finally see this deck crack into the top cut of an event, because after Lila got banned with this particular ruler, it hasn't really been seen again, and so seeing it again is really, really, really cool. Wuji is playing Reflect, Refrain, Tag. This is very straightforward. If you've seen our previous coverage of Tyler Tompkins' version of the build, this is exactly the same thing for the most part, right? You are still playing Hyde, Shooting Star of Light. You are still playing Beekeepers. You're still playing Judgment of Solari, because with Rulers under contract, you get all 3 abilities. This card is really, really, really good in the deck. You're playing Echo to recycle your 1-drop spells, and for the most part, everything is exactly the same. So I'm not going to go over it too much. This deck just, it doesn't actually do a whole lot with magic counters, other than just use them for board wiping or canceling abilities on your opponent's turn. It recovers stones remarkably easy, with the flip side of Memory of Worlds being the Recorder of Worlds. This is really, really good just to recover a target entity. It does recover magic stones, so just keep that in mind. It does draw you additional cards and buff your field. It's really, really good for that. Magic Stone decks, relatively same as we've seen before. In the sideboard, you are playing the mandatory Fire Pit Trap. This is your way of getting your Recorder of Worlds out on the field on turn 1. It's incredibly, incredibly important. So definitely play it. Just you gotta. Otherwise, you'd be playing other things like Rogue Spectator and Wanderer, but you don't have access to that in Paradox, so you have to play Fire Pit Trap if you want to do some early game shenanigans. Cursed Touch of Moon Butterflies is really, really interesting because it is a way of just stopping your opponent from having enter effects for the turn. Really, really good in the sense that we don't have Necronomicon Barrier in Paradox, so this is the next best thing. It can just be a good generic control tool as well, and provide you a body and give players barrier chance so you don't die to things like burn damage, so it's really helpful for that. We are playing Accursed Ice Shards in the sideboard as well, alongside Windia, which is different. I will say this card is absolutely really good as a control card in green. Definitely one of the cards we stan here on the channel itself. And then of course you have the Light of Megiddo to just get rid of this, just get rid of the field, just get by. See ya for free because you have a Refrain Resident of the Wanderer's Castle just available to you as one of your rulers. So this card is really good for that. This deck is probably very similar to Lucy. This deck, if you give it the time of day, is incredibly powerful if you know what you're doing. So I hope more people pick up this deck. I think this is definitely a sleeper pick in the format, and getting into the top 4 definitely shows that. Takuya and Grazier are playing Hachisuka. Let's take a look at the first Hachisuka version here. Let's go in and talk about what we are seeing. Procession of the Dunes. Very powerful card. Probably the win condition of the deck. With this card alone, by setting this card, by flipping this card, and by sometimes putting it face down, sometimes by just having additional resonators that help you to proc Hachisuka's effect, this can just be 10 cards milled off of your opponent's deck. A quarter of your opponent's deck gone with this one card if it's able to resolve. That's probably why it has stealth instead of ambush. This card can be canceled by a lot of different things, but it represents a really powerful play. And so if you know what you're doing and you're able to get this card out consistently, this card can just wreak havoc. Alongside Guardians of the Throne and Tomb, the other win condition of the deck that I would say, setting it gets rid of 2 of your opponent's cards, but whenever you flip, or whenever this card deals battle damage, put target resonator from your graveyard into your standby area face down, which then mills your opponent out 2 more cards. So even if your Murmuring Procession goes to the graveyard, you can put it down. You can flip your Guardian of the Throne and Tomb on your opponent's turn with stealth. You can put Murmuring Procession into your standby, and then on your turn, flip the stealth with Murmuring Procession and try and get another set of 10 cards removed from your opponent's deck. Really powerful. That's why you're playing Adelbert. You're also playing 4 priests in the main board. You can only play stealth, Eclipse, and ambush resonators in your deck with Hachisuka. So playing these, playing 4 in the main board, it just kind of makes sense. There's probably never going to be a time where you stealth this thing out, but if there is, it is a 6/4, so that's not the worst thing in the world. Just keeping that in mind, it's not the worst thing in the world. 1 Shadow Knife, I think 1 or 2 of this card makes a lot of sense. This card is also kind of a blowout. It just gets rid of your opponent's hand to some degree. It destroys up to 1 target J Resonator. If it was the first spell named Shadow Knife you play this game, very good. Draw 2 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand into your standby area face down. Absolute gas with Hachisuka. We are playing Soul Eating Curse. The debate that I have with this card is how many do you play? This player opted to play 2. You're removing a bunch of stuff from your opponent's deck from the game, so you're just fueling this card for a late game push. Very excellent card to be playing in the deck alongside things like the Arrival of the Conqueror. Get rid of things like your opponent's mirrors, their Swords of Progressions, Kilo, a Fossil Girl in the City to prevent enters from being stopped. This card actually enables a lot in the deck, so playing it makes a lot of sense alongside Hall of the Bandit King. This can just draw you 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and then put 2 cards from your graveyard into your standby area face down. So you see 2 cards, your opponent sees 4 less cards. Really good for that. And then it does a little bit of damage on top of that. Plus, You can give things multi-strike if you want to. You can also force your opponent to banish some resonators. This card is really good in Chant standby decks. We're playing 3 Uppercut Treatment. This card is really good in this list. I think this card is one of the core cards that is in the format right now, and probably one of the cards that needs to get banned, because this card is incredibly generic and does a lot to just... You get 1 card in the graveyard or in the RFG as a Lapis player or as a Hachisuka player, and this card is just a blowout. We're playing 3 Lunar Protective Lifeform for defense, alongside one Last Throne of the Light Palace coming in to destroy Darkness Resonators your opponent controls. And once you hit Eclipse, J Resonators your opponent controls cannot attack unless it's your opponent's first attack of the turn. So really helpful as a regalia, just to put it into the field. It's really hard to get rid of if your opponent only has black removal for this kind of stuff. Has first strike, can mobilize relatively easy. You notice that this player is not playing the Air Fleet. Air Fleet, I'm with this player. They might have this opinion, but I personally do not think this card is as good in Hachisuka as some players claim it to be. I think this card is actually kind of a distraction from what Hachisuka really wants to do. I think playing Lost Throne makes a little bit more sense, in the sense that at Eclipse, it just is going to prevent your opponent from attacking. So this card actually has a lot of value in that sense. Whereas Air Fleet enables some things. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not entirely sold on this card. Y'all might think I'm crazy. Let me know how crazy I am down in the comment section down below. We are also playing Death Gaze to get rid of things that are really troublesome, especially in the Reflect Refrain matchup. I can see getting rid of the 3-drop Reflect Refrain or Beekeeper as being really important in this particular matchup. We are playing 2 Fates Reunited, and then of course Kilo of Fossil Girl in the City, and the 1 of Dancing Crimson Flames to just copy an enter effect and deal it back to the opponent, which is really great. Magic Stone deck, pretty generic. We're seeing things like Gravestone, Prismatic Gem of the Bloody Moon, very powerful for the deck, just resets things. You have Ancient Magic Stone, 3 Ebon home, and then you're getting some green into the deck as well, with things like Magic Stone of Remnants and Ruby of Lichen Blood. That can be really helpful, especially if you in the future, this deck wants to pivot into additional green support. That's really helpful. It's also really helpful to have Star Scale in the sideboard, so that way none of your stones are punished. But if your opponent is playing anything like Reflect Refrain, this is a really good way of just shutting them down and preventing burn damage being dealt to you. In the sideboard, we are playing Fire Pit Trap. It's really helpful. It hurts your opponent more than it hurts you. You do have Accursed Ice Shards. I think this card is going to be just saying loads of play for its entire lifespan in Paradox format. A couple more Killua, a couple more of the World Tree Phoenix for burning, and then of course 2 friends and a cat to round things off. In general, this deck is really, really good. I think Hachisuka is doing a lot of really interesting things in this format and is still very much a threat. The other build that we're seeing is actually playing Pickpocket, which I think is a really good way of just sort of making sure that you are cycling and getting additional cards and just putting pressure on board. I think this card makes Air Fleet make a little bit more sense, because you are playing more Resonators in general, and then you are setting up for future turns, so this card feels a little bit more consistent. But they are also playing the Lost Throne of the Light Palace, alongside the card that I thought I would see a lot more of, Tomb of the Royal Family. Players cannot play activate abilities of rulers or sub-rulers. This card just hoses some decks entirely. So this card is really good to have in the list. If an effect would increase attack and defense of a J/Resonator your opponent controls, it does not do that instead. And then if you have a Light Magic Stone, you remove the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck from the game face down. Oh look, oops, Light Magic Stone, oops, Light Magic Stone. So half your stone base is going to be triggering this ability whenever you are able to get it out. 4 procession, again, pretty standard. 4 priests. We are playing a Guardian, which I think is very correct. I think this card is incredibly good, alongside 2 Shadow Knife. We're also playing a couple of the Crimson Lotus. This can be good to help like set up things for free in your standby area on your opponent's turn or on your turn. Really good for that. We are playing 4 Dancing Crimson Flames, just as a way of... I'm not sure why some players play more or less of these. Let me know down in the comment section if you have commentary on why these vary in terms of play numbers. I'm really interested to know. Of course, a couple of Soul Eating Curses, 3 Lunar Protective Life Forms, your Bandit Halls, and then your Queen's Engineering Air Fleet, which I said, again, makes a little bit more sense with Pickpocket. If you're going the Pickpocket route, this card makes a little bit more sense in general. Magic Stones. This card is incredibly important for Hachisuka. If you are able to flip Hachisuka and somehow kill her, you're ramping 2 stones all for free, and then putting, I think it's 2 cards into your standby area. Very good for that in general. So I love seeing this card in the particular list. It just makes a heck of a lot of sense. Sideboarding Moonglow, which I think is a really good way of pivoting around if you need to play things like your roamers. You're able to side those in without penalty, because with Hachisuka, of course, you can't play roamers, so you need a way of being able to do that. And then we also have Scheherazade in disguise as Rayzad. We have to work on aliases here, kids. This is a good way of getting the reunited text on Rayzad to proc, because you can play a face-up card without triggering without trigger from your opponent's standby area by paying its cost with will of any attributes. You basically use your opponent's cards against them, which I think is really fun. Other than that, everything else is pretty standard. We're just seeing additional copies of certain cards that are already in the main board, as well as Kilo of Hasa in the City, to provide generic support. It's really cool to see that the Hachisuka decks are making a presence. Mita-kun is here with Valentina too. This card is the reason Valentina is a deck at all. He's playing one of Valentina's Reach. I think that's totally fine. Some folks find this card to just be a complete detraction from what the deck wants to do, and it's only really good, I guess, if you are able to pay for X cost with life. In some games you're able to do that, in some games you're not able to do that, just because of the status of your porcelain statue. So if you have it in your hand and you put it on the field, it functions completely differently. So just keep that in mind. This deck is interesting because what it's got going for it right now is Water Lock. What this deck ultimately is trying to do is it's trying to get a Flooding Serpent of Altea out and turn all of your opponent's stuff into water magic stones. And then preventing your opponent from putting it back into your hand. How are we doing this, Paul? How are we doing this? We are doing it with Fates Reunited. So if you call your own Flooding Serpent and with Fates Reunited, what you're able to effectively do is say, well, you cannot play the activate ability of this card. So you just have water magic stones now. Congratulations, my friend. You cannot return this to my hand to get it off the field. It has Untouchable. It has Terrifying. Your water magic stones lose, your non-water magic stones lose all abilities. They only produce blue. They are now water magic stones. So I hope you don't have a deck that isn't blue, because that's really going to suck for you. That little combination there is probably the reason why we're going to see a combination ban of Flooding Serpent and Fates Reunited. That's way beyond the intent of the card, as you can see. Otherwise, the deck is doing what it's always done. It's doing things like Assassin to mill your opponent out of the game. It is playing a couple copies of Soul Absorption to just do the -6/-6, which is really great. With Valentina, that extends to a -8/-8, which I think is really important to recognize as well. So this card is actually really generically powerful for her. We are playing Misty Dragon Statue to flicker and to get rid of things, which is really great. Being able to flicker your own assassin is really great because then this card just gets recycled back into the deck. A couple of attack order for removal, a couple of Tonys for draw power. Main decking 2 friends and a cat, really interesting. If you are able to proc this on your opponent, you are then able to say, well, Assassin's going to yeet your cards instead of just sending them to the graveyard, which I think is really, really, really funny. A couple of Reasnables. If you're able to put this card out, it's really good. It does lose to Epiphanic Priest, but there are some decks that are just, if you're able to protect this card and just keep it on the field long enough, your opponent is not going to be able to do anything. So Reasnable, still a relevant card. Also, it can just be in your hand and you can use it to stop an enter effect. So depending on the matchup, you can pivot to using this card differently. We're playing high-speed uppercut treatment because of course we are. We're seeing a lot more cards than other decks. So being able to get rid of those cards and then high-speed uppercut other copies of good cards from the game is really, really good. 3 Vacuous, good card. Being able to cycle it around and do -6/-6 to stuff is really, really good. Vacuous, just generically, has always been good upon release. We are playing 1 Ghost of the Witches of the Tower. 3 cost. See, interesting choice. I'm not sure what they're thinking here. It might be something that I'm not sure about the 1 cost. I'm not entirely sure why we're doing the one copy. Just maybe as an additional cancel. Again, not entirely sure what's going on there, but you can let me know down in the comment section down below. We're playing Zacky's New Plans, of course, because they're just a really good blue cancel, and then we're playing 1 Accursed Touch of Moon Butterflies to round out the main board. In the sideboard, we're going for all of our generic stuff. Black Pearl is here to give you additional cards as the game goes on. Love this card to death. I think it's one of the best Magic Stones. Actually, one of my favorite Magic Stones ever printed. Love this card absolutely to death. In the sideboard, we are playing 2 Forgotten Amphitheater. Of course, you're playing your Porcelain Statue, 2 Accursed Ice Shards, 2 Hydria, which I think is really interesting, just to say you don't get to load up your hand as you lose cards in your deck. Also, just that's pretty much it. It's just hey, we're gonna prevent you from drawing cards in general. Third, 2 friends and a cat alongside the Grimoire of 1001 Nights. If you end up seeing this card, it's really good to help reload your hand, so it's worth putting in the sideboard just to see what you can get away with. We have the 4th Soul Absorption, 2 Arrival of the Conqueror. Again, really good generic black spell. What more can we say? Muse is staring at, and then Resurrected Epiphanic Priest to round out the deck. I'm really glad to see Val 2, this is Val 3, getting into the top cut here. This is a deck that's been on my mind for a long time. And then Herbero rounding out and bringing up the last of everything going on. This is the Yokoshima control deck using Battle at the Sacred Ruins. You are a Hanada ruler, and so this is a really good way of just making sure swiftness becomes belligerence, quick cast is actually taxed, and then your ancient resonators get +5/+5 if they have power counters on them. You are definitely going to be seeing that with Robometa, so it'll be a 20/20 once you ramp it up to 3 power counters, so that's really, really, really good. You are playing Wu Zhao Wu. So you are getting either build or demolish until end of the game. So this card is going to be unchaseable, which is really, really helpful. It gets rid of board states, really great for that. You do get to play Hanada Core Guardian Angel as part of that as well. And then you get Conjure Time Bomb at quick cast speed because of Yokoshima's abilities, as alongside things like Invitation, Forbidden Words, Sympathy of Fire and Wind. All of these are being paid for with mana counters, which is really great. You're doing a lot of good work with that. You're also getting the CEO's Assistant, which if you have build, and I imagine you're calling build at the start of the game, you just have a mana dork, so you have a lot of extra mana that you get to work with. This also helps you to get around the tax of quick cast if you do end up wanting to play a Robo Meta on your opponent's turn, so it has like that kind of pseudo swiftness going into your turn. This is a way of sort of mitigating that, which I think is really, really, really good. We are playing Epiphanic Priest, Killua Girl in the City, Burn Spells, and World Tree Phoenix, as well as Judgment of Solari, Swords of Progression, as well as 2 Fates Reunited in the main board. Magic Stone deck is exactly what you would expect for this particular version of the deck. And then in the sideboard, we're finding ourselves playing Night Watchers to find a couple of things. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. You're able to find resonators, but you're also able to just yeet Darkness resonators out of the game by tapping or paying double green, which is really good. So this is your replacement for Prisia, essentially, in Paradox format. We're also playing some Shamans, some Elixirs, and then making sure your opponent does not draw additional cards with Sphinx. This is a very generic card in general, so you're not drawing a ton of cards in this deck in general. So being able to say your opponent that cannot outpace you with card advantage is probably really, really good, especially then they don't get to aggro you because their swiftness is now belligerence and their quick cast is heavily taxed. So this is a good way of just stunning your opponent and making sure that they can't out-resource you. All that being said, guys, there are also top 16 lists here. Just on the bubble is a Giotto deck, alongside Lucifer 519, also piloting a Giotto deck. We generally don't do this kind of stuff, but also recognize Zero is also just like barely off of the bubble as well. So there's some interesting things going on with these particular lists. Giotto, David Preda right here, coming back from the last GP to this one, pivoting to Giotto, playing Songstress. Oh my gosh, alongside the Solar Painter to be able to say, yeah, your stuff? No. Absolutely not. You don't get to play things. Very, very, very fun to see that this card is actually seeing a lot of play in this particular build. Siding into Alex to be able to facilitate some really interesting protect plays, I think is really interesting as well. Yeah, this deck is absolutely fascinating. We'll make sure that this deck is also wait, hold on. Misung is here too. Oh my gosh, there's so many cool things happening. There's so many cool things happening in this deck alone. I think I have to cover it. So obviously we have Sphinx and we have Courtesans. We have our Night Watchers to find 2 resonators from the top X+1 cards of your deck. Really good as a will sync at the top of your turn to just find whatever you're looking for. We are playing Robo Metas. We are playing the new Monochrome Painter to be able to set things up in your graveyard. Really, really good because it does also work with Alex Sandstone, which I think is really great. We are playing Wang Xia. Interesting. I want to know more. Tell me more down in the comments. Alongside Wu Jia Wu as well for just board removal. We're playing Vacuous. We're playing Shaman. We're playing Therapist. It's just Floodgate deck. Also, anything that goes to the graveyard is removed faced out instead. Very interesting in general. Just Floodgate deck. Actually, I think why we're playing the Solar King is so we can get back the Solar Painter, because it is in fact the Moon technology. So there's some interesting things going on there, alongside Fates Reunited and Witchbox. So you'll be able to get Wang Xia here, Ghosts of the Witches of the Tower, Glowing Crystals, all really good stuff. But being able to just side into Misung to get your first ohm of the game to grab yourself a Cloth Core Master so that you can drop this later and just give it a generic barrier and a turtle. There's so many interesting things going on in this deck. Constantino, it's probably not a problem. I'm gonna be real. It's probably not a problem card, but I want to see it banned. I just want to see this card destroyed for personal reasons. Let's not get too deep into it. But again, Floodgate.deck, very, very interesting. I'm pretty sure the Lucifer version here is, it's exactly the same kind of deck, and it's just floodgating the opponent, which is hilarious. Anyway, guys, we'll link this the top 16 lists are here. There's a lot of really interesting things, including Zacky, Helen, another Hachisuka deck, another Val 3 deck, and an Ashwin deck. You're going to want to check this out a little bit later, but this video is too long already. So guys, thank you for sticking around for this extended tournament report. It's been good to have you. If you have anything to say about these lists or any of the strategies, go down to the comment section down below and let us know. I know that Lars wanted to communicate some things about his Root Shield deck, so we'll have a follow-up here in a little bit. But anyway, guys, this has been Paul saying class is dismissed. See ya next time.